I'm young, but I'm wise enough.
As soon as I close.
When we talk about Boyz II Men, it's easy to focus on their harmonies, record-breaking hits, and legendary status in R&B. But just like in any industry, the music wasn't the only thing making headlines. For Wanya Morris, his personal life had a way of creeping into the spotlight, sometimes overshadowing his career. And if there's one relationship that had people talking, it was his connection with Brandy Norwood. Now, Brandy wasn't just another R&B singer, she was the princess of 90s R&B. With a voice that could melt hearts, a TV show, Moesha, and a Disney Cinderella role alongside Whitney Houston, Brandy was black excellence in every sense. She was young, beautiful, and on her way to becoming one of the biggest stars of her generation. So when news started swirling that she was dating Wanya Morris, people took notice, and not in a good way. Why? Because at the time, Brandy was a teenager, and Wanya was a grown man in his 20s. Brandy had always been open about her love for Boyz II Men. In fact, she once said they were her biggest inspiration growing up. She admired them, studied their music, and when she got the chance to be around them, she was like a fan living out her dream. She was young, but she was also in the industry, and people in the music business saw her as mature beyond her years. The problem is, that's exactly how a lot of young female artists get caught up with older men, being called mature, as if that makes the power dynamics any less questionable. Brandy and Wanya first met when she was around 15 or 16, and by the time she turned 17, she admitted she had fallen in love with him. According to Brandy, Wanya was her first love, the man she thought she was going to spend her life with. She said he made her feel special, that she had never loved anyone like him. But here's where it gets messy. Wanya was already in his mid-20s when this relationship happened, and even though the industry was a different place back then, a grown man getting involved with a teenage girl was never okay. But back in the 90s, a lot of these relationships went unchecked, especially when it came to young black female artists. There was no Twitter, no blogs calling this stuff out. The industry was built to protect the men in power, and young women were often left to deal with the consequences alone. Brandy, being young and in love, didn't seem to question the relationship at the time, but looking back, a lot of people do. For Brandy, Wanya wasn't just a boyfriend, he was everything to her. She had built her world around him, believing that their love was real and that they would last. But in the most heartbreaking way possible, she learned he didn't feel the same way. Wanya broke up with her, and not only did he break up with her, he left her for another woman. Now, imagine being 17 years old, in love for the first time, thinking you found your soulmate, only to have him leave you for someone else. Brandy later described the breakup as one of the most painful experiences of her life. She was devastated, and even though she tried to keep things professional in the public eye, you could see the pain in her music. In interviews, she said that Wanya was her first heartbreak, the first man who really made her question love. And to make things worse, he didn't just break up with her, he did it in the most humiliating way possible. Wanya once admitted that he knew Brandy was in love with him, but for him, it was just another relationship. He realized he wasn't in love with her, and instead of handling it with care, he moved on fast, leaving Brandy heartbroken and alone. When people bring this story up today, Wanya shrugs it off like it was nothing. He makes it seem like just another relationship, as if Brandy was just another woman in his past. But for Brandy, it was so much deeper. This wasn't just a breakup, it was a power imbalance playing out in real time. And while Wanya went on with his life unbothered, Brandy was left to pick up the pieces on her own. As if things weren't messy enough, another name got dragged into the Wanya-Brandy saga, and that was Adina Howard. Now, Adina was a whole different type of R&B star. While Brandy was seen as the sweet girl next door, Adina Howard was bold, sexy, and in your face. She gave us the hit Freak Like Me and wasn't afraid to speak her mind, something that ultimately got her blackballed in the industry. At the time of Wanya's breakup with Brandy, rumors started swirling that he had been messing around with Adina Howard on the side. Some people believe Adina was the woman he left Brandy for, while others say it was a different woman entirely. Either way, Wanya was out here moving reckless, breaking hearts and leaving drama in his wake. For years, the Brandy Wanya Adina situation was one of the biggest "what really happened" stories in R&B, and to this day, nobody has all the answers. Fast forward to today, and Wanya Morris is still making music, still performing with Boyz II Men, and still living his life. Unlike a lot of other 90s R&B stars, he's kept himself relevant, making TV appearances, competing on Dancing with the Stars, and using his platform to keep Boyz II Men's legacy alive. But when it comes to his past relationships, Wanya doesn't talk much about Brandy. Brandy, on the other hand, she's never forgotten. In recent interviews, she's been more open about what she went through, reflecting on how young and naive she was. And while she doesn't bash Wanya, you can tell that the pain never fully left her. Looking back, we see things differently now. In the 90s, people treated their relationship like it was normal. But today, a grown man in his mid-20s dating a teenage girl wouldn't fly without serious backlash. And while Wanya never faced real consequences, the industry has changed. More people are calling out the way young women in music get taken advantage of. Brandy survived it, grew stronger, and kept pushing forward. But the truth remains, she was way too young to be put in that situation, and Wanya should have known better. The Wanya and Brandy situation isn't just about one relationship, it's about how the music industry treats young black women. Brandy deserved better, a lot of young women in the industry deserved better, and while Wanya moved on, the lesson here is clear. When you're in a position of power, you have a responsibility to do right by the people who look up to you, and if this story happened today, it wouldn't have been swept under the rug so easily.